So now let's talk about when not to share the hard stuff. All these reasons why we should write, why we should share, but there's a time and a place for it. And these are some rules. The sources of these rules come from Brené Brown and her wonderful book, Daring Greatly, as well as some of her other work, TED Talks, etc. And Margot Lightman, who wrote a book called Long Story Short. She was a stand-up comic, and then she does a live show. She also teaches storytelling. So she had some great practical advice, and some of this is just from our own practical experience as well. So the first time when not to share is when you're right in the middle of it. You may want to write about it, and we'll talk about writing, journaling and morning pages and diary writing when you're in the middle of it because you're processing it yourself. But that's not necessarily the time to share it with everyone else. You may share it with one or two people who have earned the right to hear your story. They're trusted, they can handle it, they're with it, they're going through the journey with you. But if you share your story in the middle of it, you haven't come out the other side yet. And what happens is people end up wondering if you're okay, if you're going to be okay. And they don't have the sort of benefit of how you got through it, and they may judge you. Not everyone has the ability to hear your difficult stuff and deal with it in an appropriate way. So another one of the rules on here is if the hearer has not earned the right to hear your difficult stuff, don't share it. We'll talk more about that in other contexts in a minute, but another reason is check your motive. If your motive is other than to uplift others, other than to inspire and create light in this world or change, why? Why would you do that? So I kind of advise people, don't write about your divorce while you're in the middle of it, unless it's just for you, right? Nobody wants to hear it. So check your motive. If the telling would hurt others, there's a time and a place to speak your truth. If you're trying to create change, if you have to go to the authorities, there's a time to come forward. But sometimes the motive is to get even. Don't. Why? Why would you want to live in that energy? No good will come of that if that's your motive. Just don't. Write it for yourself. Again, we'll talk about how to write it for yourself. If telling the story would just drive a wedge, in a family, there's a lot of sensitive topics. And if telling your story will pit people against each other and dig up old rivalries, just let it be. It's okay sometimes to just not go there. And finally, if it has an air of floodlighting, Brené Brown calls floodlighting the sort of story, so if someone shines a floodlight in your face, what do? You kind of wince and do this, right? Sometimes people overshare and they tell you details that you have no context for, you don't know how to deal with, and it was just like, oh, that was too much. If telling your story causes people to go, oh, it was too much, then maybe you shouldn't. Share it with someone who can handle it.